All right. So welcome everyone. We are very excited to be here with you today. And I am going to spotlight myself, spotlight Deborah, and spotlight Anna, so you can see us all. Thank you. Jorge.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. So my name is Jorge Bogantes Montero, the Natural Resources Specialist at the Anacostia Watershed Society. We are very excited for our 6th Anacostia River Bioblitz, and kudos to our great partners right here that will be talking about the use of iNaturalist, which is an amazing tool that has been evolving, and many people don't know the perks, but in a training like this, you're going to learn a lot of cool tricks about iNaturalist. So yeah, I will, we'll talk more about the Bioblitz event later on, but I will pass it on to our great speakers from Capital Nature, the Nature Conservancy, and Audubon Naturalist Society.
All right, so hello everyone, I'm Serenella. I'm the Adult Education Director at Audubon Naturalist Society. And as part of my duties, I manage the Natural History Field Studies program, which is a series of classes that are designed for people just like you. But my true passion is mycology, and I love to spend my fall sharing my love of nature and all things fungal with everyone just like you tonight. So thank you for being here.
Hi, my name is Deborah, and I work with the Nature Conservancy, the Maryland District of Columbia chapter. And my job is Director of Land Conservation. And in that capacity, I direct both the land protection functions where we're negotiating purchases of land or getting easements on land, and also our land management efforts on land that we own, and that includes prescribed burns, trees plantings, invasive species control, and a lot of research projects headed up by partners. I also am part of the regional leadership team for the DC Area City Nature Challenge, which is a super exciting worldwide BioBlitz that happens every spring. And I have so enjoyed being associated with that. As you become more adept with iNaturalist, you will start hearing about the monthly virtual identification nights that we also host in this region. And in my off time, I am an avid Virginia native plant gardener in Arlington, Virginia, in my home. And I use iNaturalist in the garden, identifying weeds and bugs. I use iNaturalist at work, cataloging what's on our preserves, and I use iNaturalist on vacation. And the places that I go back to over and over again, because I have ties with them, are southern New England, eastern Texas, and southwestern Utah. You'll see a lot of my iNaturalist observations from particularly those areas, but also worldwide.
Hey guys, sorry for the early turn of my slide. I am Anna Kahanui, co-founder of Capital Nature. I'm a nature nerd, Virginia Master Naturalist. I have my day jobs at the U.S. Green Building Council, which does sustainability. I'm a certified forest therapy guide, so I love connecting people to nature, both through community science and through forest therapy, forest bathing walks. Like the other ladies, I'm on the regional leadership team of the DC City Nature Challenge, and I'm really into this. Like, I'm a total nerd for the City Nature Challenge. I'm and also on the steering committee for the Washington Area Citizen Science Network. And I'm originally from Honolulu, Hawaii, but I currently live in Burke, Virginia with my husband and my dog.
All right, so when you participate in the Anacostia Watershed BioBlitz, you will be a citizen scientist. So what is citizen science or community science all about? So when curious people get together, citizen scientists working often with professional scientists, gathering data out there in the real world in real time. That data can often help to advance knowledge on topics that they care about. And the great thing about it is that even though we've got incredible technology to record our efforts, the observation is happening out there in the real world. And all right. So, Serenella, I'm trying to advance the slide, and there we go. It's just a little bit slow. Okay, so what do citizen scientists or community scientists do? They volunteer time for the issue that they care about. They observe, they collect data, and they share it so that it's useful to others. And the way we'll be doing that using iNaturalist is by submitting photos and also audio recordings. So why is community science important? For a lot of reasons. So primarily, what's most important to me about iNaturalist is the way it helps me connect to nature. It helps me be a much better observer of the natural world than I was before. And compared to a lot of the, for example, plant identification apps, iNaturalist not only is a platform that can help you identify what you're seeing in nature, but it also contributes information about your observation to scientific research. So you are part of a worldwide network of people helping with scientific research. And community science can also help support community well-being and inform policy decisions that help the environment. And it's a lot of fun. It's a whole lot of fun. I was not a completely well-informed participant about what the City Nature Challenge was about when I first participated in it. I got pulled in for other reasons, but after that, I was absolutely hooked. I had such a great time. And I think that you'll have a wonderful time participating in the Anacostia Watershed Society Bioblitz as well. So let me tell you a little bit more about iNaturalist. It's a global platform, and it's a place that you can record the things that you're seeing in nature. Plants, animals, weeds in your garden, bugs in your garden. You can meet other people who also love nature, and you can learn so much about the natural world, all that while contributing to science. So you'll be using probably primarily your cell phone, also possibly your camera. iNaturalist accepts submissions from both kinds of technology. And I think that probably most of the users of iNaturalist locally are using their smartphones, but cameras can provide even better photos, higher quality photos, especially if you're doing a lot of zooming. So you'll get started by creating an iNaturalist account. You can go onto iNaturalist on the desktop or download the free app onto your smartphone and create your account right there on either platform. Sign in, and you can go out there and start making your observations, and we'll get you started with some tips on making observations so that you can practice some before the day of the watershed before the 4 days of the Watershed Bioblitz. You're taking photos or audio recordings, you're uploading them to the system, and then you're getting feedback from people worldwide that is helping to refine or helping to confirm or refine your species identification of the things that you're observing. So when you upload observations, for example, in your smartphone, those observations are instantaneously visible on all the other platforms on which iNaturalist also operates. So on your desktop, on your iPad, all of those systems are perfectly integrated. So you're not losing any data in switching from one device to another. So what is an observation? An observation is one person interacting with one organism in one place and at one time. These are the elements of an observation. The system captures information about who you are because you are taking photos or making audio files of what you're hearing in nature. Your smartphone and your camera are capturing metadata about when you observed that thing and where you observed that thing. And the photo and the audio recording are evidence of what you saw. So all of those things go up to iNaturalist when you upload your observation. And this is what an observation looks like on the desktop. This was an observation of an eastern painted turtle, a beautiful photo made by Anna. She uploaded her photo to iNaturalist, and then another iNaturalist user, username of Luca Reptile, came in and confirmed Anna's identification of that organism as an eastern painted turtle. If you look in the upper right-hand corner, you will see some of the information about that observation that came in with Anna's photo. You can see the blue pin shows where she made the observation, and then the red pins surrounding it show the other places on the landscape that that same species was recorded. So this is what observations look like on a smartphone. So you can take photos directly in the app, or you can add photos from your camera roll. When I got started on iNaturalist, once I realized its potential, I went back into my camera roll on my smartphone and I uploaded 7 years worth of fun vacation photos of plants and animals that I'd seen in various places and added them to iNaturalist. So that was super, super fun. The time and date location all came in as data that was attached to the photo. So even though I've only been using iNaturalist for about 5 years, I've got iNaturalist observations from about 10 years because I put in old photos. So you see that you've got the opportunity to use the system to make suggestions about what you're seeing. This is a very, very powerful and valuable functionality of iNaturalist. And let's see, if you look at the third screen from the left, you see that iNaturalist made a suggestion that this daisy-looking flower is in a certain species, is in a certain genus. And then it also suggested some other things that it could be. And you have the opportunity to look at whether those suggestions were made just on visual similarity or whether they were also made because they were seen nearby. And if you click on the little eye in the circle to the right of each of those suggestions, that gets you to a page that shows even more about the species that's being suggested. So you can take all the time you want clicking around and looking at these different species suggestions and deciding which one feels like the best fit for what you're seeing. Then you just click on that suggestion to add it, and then that is your identification of your observation. All right, next. So Serenella, I'm not sure if I'm changing these slides or if you are. When I click, it takes a while.
I am.
Okay, all right then. I'll make it a little clearer about when I'm ready to move on then. So iNaturalist has an incredible computer vision ability to make suggestions about the species that you are uploading photos of. Right as you're uploading them. And it gets that ability from some really smart artificial intelligence. Every so often, the computer vision is retrained on the set of photos that have been uploaded to iNaturalist that have a strong consensus about what the species identification is for that photo. And that retraining is done I believe a couple of times a year, and I can see significant improvements in the accuracy of the species suggestions over time as I continue to use iNaturalist. Next slide. All right, great. So again, this is what your iPhone would look like if you uploaded this photo of this violet. You can see that the system is suggesting that this is in the genus Viola. It's pretty sure it's a violet, and I agree. And then it makes multiple species suggestions based on the computer vision. So again, you can look and see whether these suggestions are being made just on the basis of visual similarity, or whether they're also made because those species have been found nearby, and you can click on those little eyes in the circles to do some more due diligence. And if you enjoy this sort of thing, you can spend hours doing this and learning a lot about all the great stuff that's found in the natural world in your area. Next slide. All right, so I've mentioned that an observation documents one person's interaction with an organism at a certain place in a certain time. And so those are all the aspects of a verifiable observation. Verifiable means that you're providing some evidence, either in the form of a photo or in the form of an audio clip. And even if you make a suggestion about what the species is, that species suggestion is going to need more confirmation from the community before it reaches what's called research grade status. You will have other people in the community, the iNaturalist community worldwide, coming in and looking at your uploaded observations and saying, yes, I agree, I think that's what it is, or no, I think that's not what it is because the second segment of that bumblebee's abdomen looks yellow rather than black, so I think it's this other thing instead. But when there's a strong consensus about what that species identification is, that observation reaches research grade status. And then the next thing that happens after that is uploaded to GBIF, the Global Biodiversity Information Facility, and it becomes available to researchers worldwide. Next slide. All right, so if you look at the blue headings at the top, needs ID, casual, and research grade, that's the progression that all the observations go through. When something needs ID, that means that we need more ideas about what it is before it can become research grade. An observation is casual if it is an observation of a captive or cultivated species, or if no evidence is being provided in the form of a photo or an audio clip. Research grade is the gold standard, and as you'll see, these 8 observations here that Anna made have reached research grade. You can see the little green tag under each of the species names, because at least 2/3 of the identifiers agree on that species identification for each of those observations. Next slide. All right, so when I use iNaturalist, I am usually using it in the field with my smartphone. I do take some photos, and I've gotten a little bit better at uploading photos efficiently, but I find that I've got the smartphone with me all the time and I don't always have the camera with me. A pro tip for you is to turn off auto sync, because I like to wait until I get home in the evening to upload all of my photos. I do it, I'm warm, I'm sitting with my cat in my lap and my feet up on my coffee table, and I'm uploading my photos in the comfort of my own home. It's not draining my battery in the field, it's not using data in the field, and it gives me an opportunity to reflect on the wonderful day I've had outside. So turning off your auto sync is something I highly recommend if you use primarily your smartphone to take observations. Next slide. Another thing that you can do is you can select your level of location privacy. When your geoprivacy of your observations is open, that means that your observation will be shown with a pretty specific dot on the map showing where you observed that organism. So you can do that, and that's very helpful information to other people. You don't have to do that though. You can set the geoprivacy for any observation to obscured if you like. And this is what I do when I'm taking photos on private land that is not my own. For example, if I'm doing some easement monitoring, and I see a really cool plant on this private landowner's land. I'm not going to share that information specifically with the iNaturalist community, so I obscure that location. You can also set the geolocation as completely private. I don't recommend that because people will not be able to see anything, even approximately, about the location of that organism. They won't even be able to tell if it's in North America. So it's very hard to get people to contribute to identifications for your observation if they don't even know what continent it is on. But that is an option that you have. Next slide. So what happens with the data? Let's talk about that in the next slide. I mentioned GBIF, the Global Biodiversity Information Facility. Every so often, the set of research grade observations and all the information that comes with them is uploaded to GBIF. iNaturalist is not the only source of information for GBIF, but it is one of multiple sources, and iNaturalist is an important source. And I have gone to GBIF and I have downloaded data about the distribution of an invasive tree called the Chinese tallow tree. And it came in the form of a big spreadsheet. And I just had one of those, raising the hairs on the back of my neck moments when the spreadsheet that I downloaded contained some of my own observations that I had made in the Houston area. So that was really cool. I really felt like, wow, full circle. I had a fun time observing the species in the field, and now doing research, I'm benefiting from the addition of my observation to all the other observations that have been made about this species worldwide. Super, super cool. Next slide. So lots and lots and lots of data points are shared openly through iNaturalist and some other citizen science programs, and made a strong contribution to research and to conservation policy decisions. Next slide. So here's an example of what can happen when you aggregate good, verifiable data from many, many, many users. Over time, you can see trends. So we can look at iNaturalist observation information. We can look at when trout lily was flowering in different years. And you can see that we spotted some trends over time for these 4 years that we looked at. This is just one of many, many examples about how this information can be useful in understanding the world around us, how it operates, and how it's changing over time. Next slide. All right, great. So what I'd like to do now is to show you a little bit about how iNaturalist can look for you on your desktop. I'm trying to share. Okay, I'm clicking share and nothing has happened. Yeah, it seems to be, yeah, it's not sure that's going to work. All right, so what I'll do is, since I can't seem to get that to work right now, I'm just going to go ahead and
You can project the iNaturalist desktop for you, if you like.
What's that? Oh, okay. You want to just go to your homepage?
Yes.
Okay, let's do that. All right, so this is Serenella's homepage. What you see on the left side is a feed. She's following certain people, certain places, certain projects, certain taxa, things that she wants to be kept informed about. And on the right, you see a place where under the little forum label, it's showing where new forum topics have gotten started. Now, if Serenella wanted to add some observations from her camera, I don't know, Serenella, I was ready to show how to use the upload button, the green button at top right, or that one would work as well. If you've got a photo someplace on your computer that you could easily navigate to, this is how it goes. So it opens up a screen like that. She can choose files. Let's see if it's going to operate very quickly on Zoom. Sometimes Zoom slows things down. What would be happening quicker is if she weren't doing it on Zoom, is that she would have the opportunity to navigate to a photo that she had someplace on her computer and say, add it. And so if she added it without any knowledge of what was there, she could click on the left where it says details. She could click in that field, and then the computer vision would suggest species that were in her photo based on visual similarity. And so you can do that same kind of, you can use the computer vision when you're uploading photos from your camera as well. It's really, really cool. And what I found is that with my camera, it fills in the date and time automatically because that information is attached to my photo, but I don't have a GPS unit on my camera. So I have to type in the location. It's a little bit more work, but it's not, you can save locations pretty easily, and it can definitely go pretty fast once you're used to it. All right, great. Thank you for showing us how that works. If you can go back to your home page, I want to point out a couple of other features of the desktop version. I want you all to know that the desktop version does so much more than the app. The app is amazing, and I was incredibly fulfilled using only the app exclusively for about my first 2 years of working with iNaturalist. But I didn't realize until I was several years into iNaturalist that the desktop version is even more amazing and does even more. Now, if you look at the top right, just to the left of Serenella's very cute little thumbnail picture, you see a red speech balloon with a number 2 next to it. So that is really good stuff in there, because those notifications are how you know that somebody has come in and made a suggestion about some of your species IDs, or if you have interacted with somebody else's observation, for example, provided an identification, then you can see when other people have gone in and further interacted with that observation. So it's a little bit like your Facebook notifications. Another thing that you can do, Serenella, in the bar at the top where it says explore your observations, if you hit your observations, then you will see Serenella's observations set, and you will see that even these are really fresh observations. These were just made yesterday and uploaded yesterday. You see that for the 5th one, the purple jelly disc, somebody else has already come in and confirmed that species identification. So that one has already reached research grade. So you can get people interacting with your observations pretty darn quickly if you are an active iNaturalist user. So that is extremely satisfying. You get the wonderful fun of getting the computer vision species suggestion, and then when you upload your observation, you get real live people, very smart people, very nice people from around the world interacting with your observations. All right, great. Well, those were the main things that I wanted to show you. Mostly, I wanted you to understand that even though the app version might blow you away with what it can do for you, the desktop version can do even more. So I hope that you'll take the opportunity to explore it sometime soon in your relationship with iNaturalist. Now, if you show the next slide, that'll just give you some ways that you can get more help. Some resources for everybody are the iNaturalist forum. You got a quick little peek of what that looks like when we looked at Serenella's desktop. And I also want you to know that you can tag any iNaturalist user within the comment field of your observation. So you can tag us, you can tag me, I'm at @dbarber. When you type @dbarber into the comment field of your observation, I get a notification that somebody mentioned me in their observation. I'm going to go to that observation and I'm going to see if I can give them some help. Same for Anna and Serenella. We're all very happy to help with your IDs. All right, thank you. I'm going to turn it over to the others now.
Thank you so much, Deborah. That was an awesome overview of iNaturalist. It's one of my favorite apps to use. I use it pretty much every day. And now that we have a sense of, what iNaturalist is, let's talk a little bit about what we're going to be doing with it, or what we hope you're going to be doing with it this week. So what is a Bioblitz? You may have never heard the term Bioblitz, but kind of what it is a census of nature. It's where a designated area is determined, a time period is set, and a species set is also selected. It could be just one species, like we're gonna, for 24 hours, look for birds in DC. That could be some parameters, but for the particular Bioblitz that we're gonna be working on, we're gonna be working in the Anacostia Watershed. Next slide, please. Next slide, sorry. So where to observe? So what we're looking at is a map of the Anacostia Watershed area, and it covers several counties and part of the district. And you can see that any observation that we make using the iNaturalist platform that Deborah just explained to us, if you make it within these boundaries during the time October 20th, right, I think right, the clock of midnight and the clock of midnight to the 23rd, those will be counted in this particular Bioblitz. And so I just wanted to mention a few places that a bunch of us have been to make observations. Next slide. Kingman and Heritage Island over by RFK is a wonderful place to make. There's so many types of observations that you can make, both aquatically, birds, plants. There's so much going on over there. They've got wonderful natives that they've planted, and meadow and such that, and you see on the right there, Laura Nunn, one of her children, is an avid naturalist making observations. And so what's great about a Bioblitz activity is it's great for all ages. Kids and all generations can participate and work together. Next slide. I wasn't aware until the last couple of years about this network of Fort Circle parks, and I unfortunately haven't been to all of them. One of our colleagues, our naturalist colleagues, Carrie, she made it over the last, I don't know, year or two, she made it a goal of hers to visit each of the Circle parks. These parks are all circling the district. There are former embattlements, and a lot of them have, green space park now. And so I have been to Fort DuPont, which is fabulous. We did the City Nature Challenge there in the spring, and it's just a great place. There's diversity in terms of plants, but also in wildlife. And so if you're in the area and looking for places to go, you might want to look up the Fort Circle parks and see, check the ones that are within the boundaries of Anacostia Watershed and check them out. Next. Now, what to observe? Let's start with things that you love. I love fungi like Serenella. I love going on mushroom walks for identification with Serenella. It's one of my favorite things to do. I also love butterflies and birds. And so things that you've already been taking pictures of, perhaps on your phone or your camera, that's where you should start, unless you want to just start something new. But if I were a beginner to iNaturalist, I would start making observations of things that you are commonly observing and taking pictures of. Next. I mentioned in my introduction that I am a certified forest therapy guide, which means we take sort of slow, natureful walks outside in nature where we connect with our senses. And one of the questions that we ask our participants is, what are you noticing? And I love when spring starts, when the leaves just starting to bud out and they're starting to be like little fuzzy baby leaves. I get really, really excited about that. And I stop and I observe and I take lots of pictures of that. So if you slow down, you'll start to notice things that you probably, like if you run through a park in your neighborhood and you're running on the trails every day, if you try walking slowly and observing things around, you'll probably see things that you haven't noticed before. Next. Some things are really easy to identify on iNaturalist just because there aren't many things that look like them. So for example, on the left, those funny looking leaves, those are tulip tree leaves. And there aren't any really other leaves that kind of look like that. So if you take a picture, a decent picture, that would probably come up. Also on the right, we have a sweet gum tree seed ball. Kind of looks like a sea urchin a little bit, but again, very easily identifiable. And when I do trainings for iNaturalist in the field, I usually keep one of these in my camera bag and I pull it out and I show people how it works. And so that's things are super easy sometimes to identify. Next. And some things are easy to photograph because they don't move. They don't walk away from you. So when you have, plants and trees, they're not going anywhere, so they can sit still. So you can take as many pictures as you want. My favorite picture on iNaturalist to date observation is this zombie fly on the right. I did not know it was a zombie fly at the time because I didn't know what that was exactly, that this fungus had kind of taken over this fly. I couldn't understand why the fly was sitting so still for my photo. And then I learned that it was because it had been zombified. So some things don't move away from you, so you can take many pictures from many angles. Next picture, next slide, please. Then there are some things that do fly around a lot. And what you need to do is be patient and give yourself some time to observe. So for example, if you're observing dragonflies, dragonflies like to perch like this on little twigs and such. And a lot of times they like the same spot. And so if you walk up and it kind of flies away, if you kind of stay there within about 10, 20 seconds, there's a good chance that it's going to return to that perch as long as you're not messing with it. And so if you just are very still, a lot of times they like to kind of just come back to the same one over and over again. And so that's kind of a little tip if you're trying to get pictures of dragonflies. And then same with birds, you know, birds that are flying around, they're flitting around. It's kind of hard to get a whole body picture. So you might get a picture of the head in one picture, you might get the tail, you might get the underside, you might get the feet, but all of these will be combined when taken. If you take more than one photo, will help people identify correctly the observation. Next slide.
Mhm.
Captive versus cultivated. Deborah did mention this, that for this particular Bioblitz, we're not looking for things that are domestic pets or plants that you have planted in your yard or your garden. And so here are some examples. This is my dog Lonnie on the left, and she thinks she's a wild animal, but she is not. So I would not take a picture of her for this particular Bioblitz or any other. And then same with the bonsai tree and the orchid at the botanic garden. These are things that you know, that have been planted or are being curated. And so they're not going to count them in our wild count for this Bioblitz. It's not really contributing to our census. Next. And she would want to mark them captive cultivated. Another important thing is, let's say you're in a garden that has a bunch of trees and you know those trees have been planted by the library or something like that. So you know you're not going to report those trees, but look on the trees because there could be bugs or there could be fungi on them. And so on the left, you know, we have this, this lady beetle there, and on the right, we have this tar spot on the red maple. And so these things are all fair game, things that are on top of cultivated things. Next slide. And then this is one of my favorites. We have these beautiful photos from Katja Schultz from the Smithsonian Natural History Museum. Signs and remnants of life is also fair game for Bioblitz. So if you have something identifiable, such as a nest, an egg, a feather, poop or scat, or frass, bones, skin, anything that could be identified to a particular species, that's fair game. So you want to try to get as many different kinds of pictures as possible so that people can figure out the context of what you're trying to share here. Next slide. And then audio, they, over the last couple of years, they added the option to not only, we've been always adding our photos, but adding audio files. And one good thing about this is, for example, the crow that's up there on the left, we have two different crows in our region. We have the American crow and the fish crow. And they look very similar by sight, but if you hear their call, the American crow is caw, 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 and the fish crow is sort of a nasally sound, nah, nah, nah. And so if you make a recording of the bird and enter that into iNaturalist, people will be able to identify it. Next slide. Tips for observing. I'm passing it over to our lady Serenella.
Thank you so much, Anna. So I wanted to kind of take a step back and not only empower you to observe everything that is alive or is a sign that's something that's alive, but how do you get good pictures that will allow other people to help you with identification? So that will happen when you get close. Think about the space that you have for the picture in your camera and how you use that. So with this specific insect, it's important to get the spots and get the color. So as you get close, take the picture from far away and then continue taking pictures as you get closer, because that it's a insect that we know moves rather quickly, but the series of close, closer, closer, even closer will get you the closest that you're able to get without losing the picture, because you waited until getting too close and then the insect moved away. Make sure that your pictures are as in focus as possible. And instead of using the digital zoom in your phone, use your feet. The most efficient zoom that you can use relays on your body. So getting close via getting the camera close will allow you to get a better quality picture that is in focus. Click on the part of the screen that has most of the focus to allow the camera to capture as many characteristics as sharp as possible. When we're talking about big events that will bring many, many pictures, blurry pictures will get passed on. Sharp pictures get the attention of the identifiers. And whenever possible, separate your subject. These are beautiful pictures taken by my co-presenter, Anna Kahanui. Now, if you think about a tree, the tree is such a big organism, but there are parts of the tree that you can isolate and separate against the sky, for example, or against a darker place or in the background, so you can provide a better composition for people to observe the leaves, the leaf arrangement, the flowers, and try to capture as much detail as possible. These two pictures are taken by me, and I have self-denominated myself as Queen of the Little. So I really like to look at nature that is 2 inches or smaller, and I really enjoy taking macro pictures with my phone. Both of these pictures were taken with my cell phone, and they're less than an inch the size of the actual subject. And capturing all those details, especially with some plants, will allow you to discern between one species or the other. Thank you, Barbara. Wing veins are very helpful on insect ID, and the wing veins that you're observing to the right are the veins on a dragonfly wing. I mean, crane fly wing. But for dragonflies, the veins could be very useful as well. And think about which perspective you're using to take your picture. As Queen of the Little, you will often find me in the floor taking pictures of things that are very tiny. So the picture in the left it was taken by Anna while I was taking the picture in the right. Each one of those little tentacles, it's about 2 to 3 millimeters. So it's very, very tiny. And when you get really close and get to the floor, you'll be able to take a better picture and different angles as well. Focus is super important. The sharper, the more focus, the better. Now, let's talk about individual groups of pictures. So when you are trying to take pictures of plants, what exactly are people trying to base their identification on? Well, it's important for the plants to capture the leaf arrangement. And here at the bottom of the slide, you have a few examples of leaf arrangements. How are those leaves attached to the stem? And they can be alternate, one on one side and a little farther down the next leaf on the opposite side. They can be opposite, immediately one in front of the other. And this is called opposite alternate. So these are completely opposite. These are opposite alternate, where you have one in front of the other, but in the next node or the next set of leaves, it's kind of rotated 90 degrees. Or you can have them whorled, which you have several leaves coming out from the same point in the stem, and you have like stages growing like that. So all of that is to say that it's important to show how the leaves are arranged in that plant. Also, the flowers. Also, where is that? Are the leaves coming all from the base, or are they growing from the stem? So take multiple pictures, and one of those pictures should include the habitat, because sometimes the difference between one species and the next is, was it growing on rocky soil versus very organic soil? So all of that is really important information. And then for mushrooms, that is where the pain of my existence lays. Because when you take a picture of just the top of a mushroom, you are doing this and telling me who is behind. If I know that mushroom really, really well, I might be able to identify it just by the top, but most likely I'm going to need to see how is that mushroom attached to the wood or to the ground. I need to see the base, and in this case, there is a structure there that is key to identify that particular mushroom. I need to see the top, and I need to see the underside. Does the underside have gills or pores? And are those gills have a different color at the edge of the gill versus the face of the gill? So take different pictures from different angles and submit them all on the same observation. For mushrooms as well, it's really key to identify the tree that they are growing on when they are growing on a tree. And that identification is a loose term, because sometimes you'll be able to tell me, oh, it was growing on an oak. But sometimes we don't have the enough background to make that identification, and that's okay. If you can tell me that it was a coniferous tree or a pine tree versus a hardwood or a deciduous tree, that is also useful information. So give me as much information as you have, but give me more than just one picture. And you can annotate the type of wood that it was growing on or the type of soil in the notes section of that observation. Thank you, Anna. Very cool. And smell the mushrooms. Even poisonous mushrooms will not harm you if you smell them. Touching mushrooms is okay. Smelling mushrooms is okay. The problems with poisonous mushrooms is only when you eat them. So no eating, but smelling and touching, always okay. And record anything that you smell in the notes section, and record any textures in the notes section. Those are often very useful. For arthropods, let's be aware of our body's position. Mind your shadow. So when you're trying to photograph arthropods, I suggest going earlier in the day because it's cooler. They don't have as much energy to move faster as later in the day when the day has warmed up already. And make sure that you know where your shadow is. Orient your body in a way that the shadow does not hit the insect before you get to it. Because when that happens, your shadow will send a warning, a predator is coming, and it will move away. So work with the light and your shadow to get a little closer to the arthropod. Try to put pictures from multiple angles. Like we mentioned before, take pictures of the wings. If you have a problem getting all the parts of the body of that particular insect in focus, I suggest trying to focus in the thorax, either in the thorax or at the base of the head, because that will bring most of the information into the focus. And then you can try to add other perspectives with subsequent pictures. And some arthropods can only be identified with the head and the eyes, or the wings are visible. So please make sure that you capture as many body parts in focus as you can. With butterflies, that is so important to mind your shadow. So when photographing butterflies, I often go to the flower that they are likely to visit and wait there. It's better to wait for the butterfly to come to the flower than to try to chase it and take a picture of that, because you're likely going to miss that butterfly. But when you're already placed in a way that you are minimizing your body movement, and you have your camera in a way, in a tripod, or in a way that you can tilt it towards different flowers on the same bush, you're more likely to be able to capture butterfly pictures. If you are chasing a butterfly that it's already landed, then use the rule of minding your shadow and taking pictures from afar, and then closer, and then closer, and then closer, to ensure that you have a decent picture to report. For butterflies and moths, be aware that they can look very different. The caterpillars may look very different in different stages of development. So getting as much information of the caterpillar as well as the plant in which you got it from could also help. The habitat will also be another piece of information that is useful. And try to get the face into the picture as well. Our wonderful co-presenter, Anna, already talked about the dragonflies. They can move rather quickly, but what I can add to her speech is that placing yourself close to bodies of water that have a vegetation, tall vegetation next to them is, it has been successful for me when trying to take pictures. And as you see here, most of these pictures are when these dragonflies are perched. So dragonfly on flight, it's much more difficult to photograph than if you use the same tip as placing yourself on an environment that is likely to host that organism and then waiting for the organism to come by. With the beetles, really important to capture that triangle in between the thorax and the wings. That is key in the identification of some of the species. So please make sure that that is in focus and visible in your pictures. For this particular species, because it has some very distinctive coloration, although this triangle is not visible, you may be able to identify it to species, but that's not the case for every beetle. So look here that you have that small triangle. In here, you have it as well, and in here. So make sure that that's included in some of your pictures. And with insects, I would say that pay attention to the picture once you take it and you bring it home, because sometimes you might be able to find some fungal pathogens of that insect that you can add to a second observation. And that is the case of this right here. That is a fungal pathogen of lady beetles. That is an STD of lady beetles. So if this was my picture, I would take this, make the observation for the lady beetle, and then crop it to show, enhance this particular area of the observation and make a second observation of the green hanger fungus. So you may bring surprises that you didn't know of. Oh, thank you, Deborah. Those bonus species. Very cool. All right. So for spiders, if they happen to be laying on a solid surface, that picture, it's going to be easier than if they are hanging on a piece of spider web. But I have a tip for you. If you're using your phone, what you want to do is put your phone and your phone camera using your hand in a similar light that the spider is laying on, and then auto lock your camera so the focus of the camera doesn't move anymore. You want to place that auto lock using either your hand or a piece of wood or a leaf, so you can lock the macro. And then when the auto lock is on, then you can use your camera and take the picture of the spider by adjusting the distance between your phone and the spider. That will allow you to visually see when most of the pieces of the spider are in focus, although it's still suspended. Because when you don't auto lock and you allow the camera to try to calculate what to focus on, then it's gonna, more likely than not, it's gonna take the background into account. And what you wanna focus on, it's really a spider that is farther from the background. So using auto lock will help you get those very trick pictures. Kerry asks, is it okay to take a sample home for identification? For example, taking a mushroom home for a spore print. It depends. So you need to be mindful of the different regulations in the parks that you visit. Usually national parks or national forests do not allow the collection of anything to take home. So if you are on the Greenbelt Park or the Patuxent National Wildlife Visitor Center or Rock Creek, you should not be taking anything home to do further identification. In those cases, I would suggest to look at the environment where the mushroom is, because there are sometimes spore prints already available in the environment. I have taken pictures where the mushroom has already released the spores and they are laying on top of the mushroom that's coming below. So if you are in a national forest, just take extra time to see if the spore print has already been made for you. And thank you for asking that question. All right, bees and wasps, be extra careful, but go to the flowers. Standing by the flowers will allow you to get them while they are busy collecting their food and more likely to be cooperative. For wasps, you have to be careful. Do not disturb their nest, otherwise you are going to pay the price for that picture. All right, so it's a couple of reminders. If you like the little things in nature, just as I do, please replace any disturbed microhabitats, because the wildlife that lives there doesn't want to dry out. Bring a phone charger or an extra battery pack for your camera. And it's nice to have a sense of scale. So you could bring a small ruler. Carrie Wickstead carries a 1 meter retractable tape measure in the necklace with a hand lens, which is very useful. I typically go with my finger or a coin is also very useful. Now, as a mycologist, I do pick some of the mushrooms to see the underneath, but my very ethical counterpart and co-presenter tonight, Anna, loves to use the mirror trick to get the top and the bottom in the same picture, which is absolutely gorgeous and makes for very interesting pictures. Bring a source of light. Often when you're taking pictures in the forest floor, you have less natural light than usual. So it's very useful to have an external flashlight or an external flash. And in some cases, having a piece of white paper to separate the subject can also be very helpful. Don't forget, you always have some tools with you. As I mentioned, your hand can be used for scale as well. All right, and I will pass it on to my co-presenter, Anna.
Thank you, Serenella. So what to do next? We've kind of told you about the app iNaturalist and how wonderful it is. So we encourage you to sign up for the app, create a free account on your phone or on your desktop. We have created for the City Nature Challenge, we've created several different resources and tutorials and videos that you could visit, even though they mention the City Nature Challenge, they're all related to how to use the app. We would ask you to join the Anacostia River Bioblitz project on iNaturalist. So if you just search for it if you go to iNaturalist and go into the find projects and just put in the Anacostia River Bioblitz, there'll be a little place where you can join up in the top, and then that means you're joining us, so we know how many people are doing it. And just practice. practice making the observations, getting identifications. You can go out by yourself during those 4 days, or you can go out with your family, or you can join us for some of the organized events, which I'll talk about in a second. Also, we would love for you to have social media pictures. So if you can just take pictures of you making observations, we would love that. We'd love to see your observations, as well as all of you actually being community scientists. Next slide. And so here are some of the upcoming events. And so on the Saturday at Kenilworth Aquatic Gardens, there is a whole day planned of all these different walks from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. And in a second, I'll drop after I speak. I'll drop the link in the chat. Mammals, insects. I'm doing a generalist walk. We have birds, herpafauna, aquatic biodiversity. Serenella is doing mushrooms at 1:45, and a plant walk with Jorge. So there's going to be all different types of local experts. So whatever you're into or want to learn about, definitely show up. These are all free. It's just kind of walk up. You don't have to register in advance or anything. And then we'll also have some stations there. And I was wondering if Jorge, did you want to get on and speak about what's going on that day?
Not really. You're doing a great job.
Oh, okay. Okay, that's cool. That's
the
cool.
only thing that I want to add is that this is where the first Bioblitz happened, because that was a term coined by the famous entomologist Sam Droege from the USGS, and it has a historic importance for Bioblitz. And right now there's Bioblitzes, especially of this kind, using iNaturalist all over the world. So
great, thank you. And this is our 6th annual, right? The 6th annual?
Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much, Jorge. Next slide. And then on Sunday, at Guilford Woods, they're going to be having a Bioblitz there from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. And so I actually haven't been to Guilford Woods yet. That's on my list. Hopefully maybe I can make that event. But if you can't make Saturday, or you're not able to join any of the other, get out where you are, definitely go out and help those guys out in Guilford Woods. Next. And then I just wanted to do a little mentioning my website, capitalnature.org. We do have a calendar where we list different activities, natureful activities in the DC metro area. So we would love for you to go and check out the calendar that we have, and it's events. There's basically all the partners that we have in the area, the Coalition of Nature Nerds, and we're promoting their activities. And so as an example, here's the Bioblitz that you would see on our website. Next. And I pass it back to Serenella.
Oh, sorry. I would like to mention also the ID party happening on Monday, October 24th at 7 p.m. So once you gather all your skills you've learned today, and you're going to be an expert by Monday the 24th, you can join the ID party and learn how to use the app to identify critters.
Thank you. Thank you, Jorge. And then, as Deborah mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, we, all three of us, Deborah, Anna, and myself, collaborate organizing these monthly ID calls with iNaturalist. And during that call, we will spend about 20 to 30 minutes getting a crash course on how to ID different organisms. In November, I'm very excited because Dr. Natalie Howe will be the lichenologist featured, and she's going to give us a crash course on lichen identification. If you want to register for that, and all the monthly ID calls that we do the first Tuesday of the month up to December, we might switch to the second Tuesday starting in January. Please get your phones and your camera and scan the QR code in the screen. I put it big there so you can just scan the QR code and add your email to the registration list and receive the Zoom for the monthly ID calls immediately after your registration. We also have some other programs going on at Audubon Naturalist Society that we would love to have you. So on Tuesday, October 18, we have filmmaker Cynthia Khabib and photographer Vicky giving us a talk and the trailer of the upcoming documentary about Redgate and how did this golf course park turn into an oasis for birders. And then on Saturday, October 22nd, we will have Cynthia Khabib as well as Holly Breviv leading a walk at Redgate Park, in which we'll be able to see the park through the filmmaker's eyes. So if you like to register for that, the website is anshome.org/naturalist /naturalist-hour. And it's under here, anshome.org/naturalist-hour. I will also, come on, it is mushroom season. So you have to come mushrooming with me. I have 2 walks organized. Families are welcome. And the first one is Friday, October 28th from 9:30 to 11:30 a.m. And the second one is on Saturday, November 6th from 9:30 to 11:30 a.m. too. And if you want to register for those, the website is anshome.org/nature-classes. I promise to show you how the fungi are connected and ruling the world from the underground houses. And then in the winter, starting in January, we have many other classes available for you. One is going to be in conservation history, winter bird life, land use principles. We'll teach you how to ID plants in the winter using buds and scars and bark. And we'll also have Natalie giving a class for 5 weeks on lichens of the mid-Atlantic. So if you wanted to get your hands on some lichen identification and grow your skills, this is your chance. So if you like to join our mailing list and get a notification of when these classes will be open for registration in November, please scan this QR code and add your email to our mailing list. So like Jorge mentioned, we will have a iNaturalist ID party on Monday, October 24th from 7 to 9:30 p.m. And we would love to have you there. And I'm sorry, Deborah, that's a leaf.
Oh, quite all right, quite all right. Yeah, so Zoom gives us the ability to break up into breakout rooms if we have so many people at the virtual ID night that we want to have one room focusing on plants, another room focusing on insects, another room focusing on mammals, birds, whatever we want to. And we've also realized that it's a good idea to have a room in which I stay to help people answer relatively basic questions about iNaturalist. We tend to have some people coming to our virtual ID parties who are quite new with iNaturalist, and they just want to know some kind of beginner-like things. So there is room for everybody. We have some people who have a great deal of expertise coming to our ID parties, and then other people who are very, very new at it. There is room for everybody. So we would be very happy to see you next week. All right. So go. We have got some time for questions.
And these going back to those pictures really quick, I love that picture of Jorge leading that group. See, he's got what are you carrying there? Something that you're going to do skim with, Jorge?
Yeah, that's a sampley rig. We're gonna be doing all that on Saturday. So at Kenilworth Aquatic Gardens, perfect place to learn about aquatic critters, and we'll have experts in different fields, macroinvertebrates, fish, and other stuff. So you'll learn a lot.
And then you can see that picture in the upper left of Serenella taking a picture of a participant who found some fungi on a stick. So that was kind of cute. She was kind of taking a picture, a close-up picture of that. And then families on the left doing the skimming. And then a family on the bottom left taking picture. There was a stump there right at the entrance of the park there that had so many different things going on. I think we, probably made 5 or 6 observations of different things right on that particular stump. So if those are any of you on this call, if you plan on being there on Saturday for any of the activities, now that you've seen our faces on the Zoom, please tap us and say hi or ask us questions.
Oh, and I would like to point out for Katie that that particular mushroom there has what I was talking about of the ready-made spore print. So if you look around that mushroom, you kind of see that brown powder, and that is the spores of that mushroom that are there. So take a little time to look for those. So thank you everyone for joining us tonight, and we would love to entertain your questions. So share your video, share your voice, ask us anything that you would like to know.
Jenny, did you learn something new? Probably not. You've been on all these presentations.
Jenny is a real pro.
Yes.
And she is one of our area's top identifiers. So she knows, she has submitted a ton of great observations and also helps to get other people's observations identified and up to research grade. She's a very active member of the community.
And Mary Didier, I want to give a shout out to Mary. She's been a volunteer for the mussel project since the beginning in 2015, since we started with the assessment of the mussels. And she has been picking up on the iNaturalist. And Mary, what do you think about that? Have you learned any tricks today?
I did. I'm very happy that I joined. I was wanting to say thank you for doing this presentation. I do think I'm still having some trouble with my app, but I'm going to see Jorge tomorrow, and so I'm going to test it with him. I'm having problems with I've been having problems with the pictures uploading, and it still looks like that's happening, and for the location to show up. But I just got this new phone, and so I'm hoping it's just something user error that Jorge can help me fix.
Mary, are you using iPhone or?
Yes, I have an iPhone, and I had a very old iPhone, and I took some pictures and tried to upload it to iNaturalist, and they never fully uploaded. And now I have a new iPhone. It's a 13 mini, and my iNaturalist app is still loaded, but it's still showing like it's trying to upload pictures, and these pictures were taking a very long time, and I can't seem to get it to stop. And so I
have a question, Mary. Is there an option for you to connect your phone to a computer where you can like upload your photos to a computer by any chance?
I'm not sure. This is sad also. My computer is it's like from 2012, and it's not doing so well with photos. Like the photos I now take on my iPhone will not fully upload on my computer, on my laptop.
Yeah.
So I'm working on getting a new laptop, but right now, yeah. So if I was to delete this app and then try to reload it, I would still have my account, right? It's just that I might lose all my
Yep,
pictures.
you can delete the app and just re-download it. You won't lose your stuff. It's all
Okay.
it's all safe.
Then I'm
Yeah.
going to do that. I'm just going to delete the app and then re-upload it. And tomorrow when I see Jorge, if I still have problems, maybe he can point something out
Yeah,
to me.
yeah, we can take a look at it. We're gonna do a mussel survey at Kingman Lake tomorrow, so that's some observations. Actually, one mussel survey is gonna fall within the Bioblitz on Thursday at Busser Point, depending on weather, you know, water conditions, but we normally do one mussel survey just to include mussels because we're, I guess, the only one that observe mussels.
We like to
Well,
see
actually,
them.
Deborah, I noticed that you observe a lot of mussels in one of the City Nature Challenge in the Potomac River one year.
Yes, because our Nanjemoy Preserve down in Charles County is one of the few sites in Maryland that has the dwarf wedge mussel.
Yep.
So I was taking pictures of every mussel, hoping one of them would be a dwarf wedge, but none of them were. But I'll keep trying.
Yeah,
How
and Mary, also on your observation, your question, I had that recently, but it turned out to be that my phone was full of stuff. So once I, put my pictures on the cloud, delete them from the phone, and delete apps and things that I don't use, it started to work back to
I
normal.
think a lot of times it's a storage issue. I suffer
Yeah.
from that. Like sometimes I just like run out of space because I have so much stuff and nothing works after that. Like nothing like functions right when you just have when it doesn't have enough brain power to work because you got so much stuff on your because I'm a digital pack rat. So
Yeah, that's good to know. The thing that's a little intimidating is that all of your pictures are always so beautiful, and I can't take pictures
Not
like
mine.
that.
yeah. Oh yeah,
Have
no.
beautiful
You don't know.
pictures.
Not all of them. Nope.
I
nope.
have useful pictures, not beautiful pictures. And
It's all about getting it clear enough for an ID.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, but thank you for the tips on where to focus and to take multiple pictures and things like that. So that was all very helpful.
Great.
So great, thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
Mary.
you.
Yeah, thank you, and see you tomorrow, Mary.
Yep, all righty, bye.
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 Rose, did you want to share anything with us?
Oh, sorry, no, I was just like listening.
you
So I've
so
used it
much.
before. I was more interested in the info about the Blitz itself. Because I've used iNaturalist a bunch, but it was great. That's good to know.
Thanks for
Yeah.
coming.
Okay.
Yeah, no, thanks a lot, you guys. You're
Hope you
awesome.
join us over the weekend. Hope to
Yeah, I
see
think I'm
you
gonna come
out
to
there.
Kenilworth for sure.
Yeah, that
I'll
would be
be
great. Well, make sure you tap one of us and say, hey, I was Rose on the Zoom.
Okay.
All right.
Thanks, Rose.
Good night.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye, Jenny.
So we could probably stop the recording. That was fun.
Yeah, I'm gonna